I feel like they have created a space where we can be pretty honest with them. I don't feel like I'm going to offend them by saying I don't like something.
In fact, if I knew what to say to offend Ben, I would just say it for the sake of offending Ben.
I didn't up.
This is Blind, a brand strategy design consultancy based in Santa Monica, California. Since 1995, Blind has used the power of design to help diverse clients reach their customers and stand out in the marketplace. In this series, you'll get a rare glimpse behind closed doors and see the process of rebranding a company from start to finish. This is Building a Brand. On our last episode, Blind's designers, Sang, Emily, and Min, used their research and the feedback from Ben and Matthew to create their Stylescapes. After some refining, those Stylescapes need to be presented to the clients. Because Josh and Crysten are in the area, Ben and Matthew decide to take advantage of that, having the Stylescapes printed out so that they can do the presentation in person. On their commute to the brewery, the two do some fine-tuning of the presentation.
I am always nervous in these situations. So the closer we got to Hamilton, the more my heart started pounding. Up until this point in the project, we've been holding a mirror up to the Hamiltons. We've been saying, hey, this is what you said, is this right? And now we have to show them work that we put together. And I know it's pretty low commitment, but this is the first time that we've actually done something for their approval.
Because Ben is the one who's mostly going to be presenting today, I can chill. I can sit back a little bit, which I love.
I got through about half of them last night before I just totally bonked.
It's all good.
And then as I was working through it, I kind of realized that we may have to leave one in the car. And I think that it might need to be Emily's second one.
The one that's similar to Min's?
Yeah, it's got like rough textures. It's kind of a cross between Min's and Sang's.
And do you feel like just because we don't want to give them too many choices?
There's that, so that's the fifth one. And then there's, it blurs the lines so much. Emily's last Stylescape, there was parts and pieces that kind of showed up in all the other Stylescapes. It was so close that I really didn't want to present something that wasn't much different than everything else. So making sure that each option had a good amount of contrast between the 3 or 4 that we were going to present, that was really important to me.
Using the right descriptors can open up the minds of a client to the work you're showing them. Oftentimes, those making the pitch will invest a lot of time and energy into finding the right words to do that job.
When I was going through them, it was very easy, actually, for me to write about both of Min's. So the first one I'm calling Merit Badge.
Okay.
Because it's kind of like a fun combination of color and line icons, and those two things really contrast with the subject matter of the line icons, and then the really kind of stoic utilitarian typography. So it's got this type that you can just beat to death, and it will, still, it's like the Rocky Balboa type.
Right.
But it's contrasted with this like really fun poppy kind of color. And then it was really easy for me to write about Sangs too. So I called that one the Shield.
The Shield, okay.
And that one is like no nonsense, quality product, guaranteed. It's this kind of like really flat, strong color palette.
With that one, can we make a slight tweak to the title? Instead of the Shield, can we say Trusty Shield? The reason I say that is because I look, and maybe that's the wrong combination of words, but like the Shield is pretty generic. And I can see the utilitarianism in that, but at the same time, I think with these titles, we always try to pair up words or things that are that help just give it a little bit more color description, so that you know how to feel about it.
Yeah, I like the concept. I don't like the word trusty.
Right.
So
what about trusted Shield? Or
what's another word for that? What's a phrase from like the 40s or the 50s that? What about built to last?
Built to last. Okay, I like that.
Built to last.
Yeah. So it captures the heritage, it captures the shield.
Yep. By naming them kind of fun names, you basically summarize the whole look and feel into one thing.
And the thing with naming, you have to be very careful on the exact words that you choose, because the words you use are kind of like the entryway into the idea. So if you have the right title, it frames the perception of how I'm going to look at a particular piece of work. And like Ben said, it starts to give you the narrative of how things are unfolding.
With the titles for the Stylescapes fleshed out, Ben and Matthew will make final presentation decisions and discuss how they think things will go.
So we'll go one by one. We'll show it in that order. And then in the end, we'll press them to see if they can make a hard decision. I have a feeling Josh and Crysten are going to be on opposite sides of the spectrum.
Oh, you think?
I think so. Yesterday I was feeling like, oh, we have enough here where it captures both of them. But now that I'm thinking about it, thinking about the first two, Emily's and Sang's, more on the manly side through the beer snob, I feel like that's Josh's territory. Where the last two, because they're so colorful, it's a little bit more feminine. I feel like Crysten's gonna gravitate towards those.
While Matthew and Ben are putting the final tweaks on their strategy for this presentation, it's business as usual at Hamilton Family Brewery. Josh and his crew are brewing more beer, while Crysten prepares for the presentation. When the blind crew arrives, Ben and Matthew are ready to step in the ring.
So last time we were doing the discovery session, and that was to unearth insights and kind of get like a list of words that you guys wanted to use to describe the brand. So the Stylescape phase, what we're about to go over, is really our interpretation of those words, because it's really difficult to make that leap from words to images. So
All right.
we have 4 directions to show you.
Okay.
And
Don't say wow yet. You're setting
Well, no, I'm just saying that's a lot of. No, just like 4. Okay, yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm teasing.
All right, I'm set them low.
I'm teasing. Yeah.
That's it?
Set them really low so that.
I thought there was 20.
I thought you were rolling deep, yeah.
But before we take a look, just remember that none of this stuff is designed for you. So this is all things that we've curated in order to build the vibe that we're trying to communicate.
Got it.
So they're very different, but if you see something, some things have Hamilton on it, but nothing is designed yet. So the next step, we're going to develop the logo, we're going to develop the packaging, all this kind of stuff is going to come together. This is really just to help us set like the compass direction.
So this first direction we have here, this one we really wanted to capture the heritage aspect of what you guys currently have with the brand. And what did we call this one?
This was the Ornate Heritage.
Ornate Heritage, yeah. So this one, we're looking at a lot of these flourishes as far as accents go, thinking about the tree illustration that you currently have, and then thinking about how that would look across a range of things, from like background textures all the way up to something like the top of a cap. Right, like what that could potentially look like over there. Where we took this into a little bit of a twist is we added these little pops of color in here, these little slivers of color, where we took something that looks very, traditional Victorian kind of ornamentation, and we added these little pops of color to just help freshen that up. So you see here with a lot of the kind of like natural materials that we could potentially see in your space, then you have these little paint accents, right, that would just be very, very bright and vibrant.
For the logo, we wanted to make sure that we had something that was a little bit more ornate, but that we also wanted to figure out a way to show it in a small space, but still communicate that like kind of ornate heritage. And that's why we went with something like a monogram.
And then this is all filtered out through one of our users. So the user that we're targeting is the beer snob, right? So this is our gentleman right here. And we're thinking, just like looking through his lens, what potentially he'd be looking for.
Initially, this one, I saw the little squirrels, the swivels and that, and I was like, like that's too traditional for me.
This one is like totally like, yeah, that's beer, man cave type stuff, totally cozy right there. But yeah, it definitely went from like almost like safe bet.
That was your safe bet? This is the most risky for me. I do
really?
like this,
Yeah,
but this
okay.
is.
No, that's like home for me right there.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, not for me.
Okay, so that's Ornate Heritage.
Ornate heritage, I like that. Yeah.
That's cool.
Okay.
It's very charming.
And then so this one,
All right, so we're calling this one Built to Last.
This is really cool.
We wanted to like look at time past and pull in some of that authentic heritage, but we did it through the lens of, you know, your blue collar working class. So this screams like quality Americana. It's got that grit to it, you know?
yeah, I think this one, there's definitely a utilitarian feel to it, right? Where a lot of this feels a little bit industrial as far as like the style of these things. We tried to look for a interesting color palette that does feel sturdy. Like that's why I have the bold, like this reddish orange in the black and white. But then we didn't want that to feel so overly manly, so we complemented that with something that's like this little lighter of a blue here. So we thought that those two things, especially if you see here in this example, like those balance out really nice, or even in a range of things. Like those are quite nice.
And we really like these like badgy kind of shield shapes for this. It's just, it's like that era. It's reflective of that built to last kind of, you know, 40s and 50s Americana vibes.
That is cool.
Yeah, and then as far as photography goes, like there's small examples here and over there. So we're thinking as far as the brand goes, you know, like you have these nice, beautiful, bold colors and graphics that you can use, but then also it's like, well, how would we use photography? And that could be a nice way where you just show off the equipment in a very raw and dramatic way. And I feel like that's a really nice complement to some of these things here, which are very colorful and graphic. So there's a good range between the things that are more real, tactile, and textural versus these things that are a little bit more graphic and solid.
This one I was like, oh, I love the colors and I love everything about that, but I feel like that's done before.
I knew exactly where they were going for, and I do like it.
With this one, I think that you were drawn to that. I don't know. I
Maybe
think
that's a preference that our customers don't have. So yeah, it's not hard for me to say, if I can recognize that and they can show me and say, like, Josh, you've been pushing for this. This is what it looks like in the bureau world and in a Stylescape. Do you think that resonates with your customer? And now I can finally see like a pure version of what I've been going after and be like, huh, maybe that isn't just a me thing.
And so the trick with this is, like Matthew said, it's the most masculine one that we have. So we just need to balance that out with things. And I think that we've done that, you know, the chalkboard stuff, the light blue.
yeah.
Next one. So this is very different. Very different.
Why look at me?
Oh, 'cause
Honestly.
no, I didn't know. I wanted to see what your first impression was.
So this is our Jessica Torres user profile, and we're thinking about her. Where is she gonna go? Where she feels like the brand is welcoming, she could learn about beer, and it doesn't feel so overly manly where it doesn't alienate her. So we're just thinking about those kind of qualities and skewing it a little bit. So while the previous one was very manly, this one I think is a little bit more feminine, but not, you know, we're not showing pinks and fuchsias and things like that.
What we're calling this is merit badge.
I know you love educating people about beer, so there could be little things when we were thinking about you know, like Boy Scout badges, like every time you learn something, you earn a badge. So that might come across in the graphic language potentially, where you're marking specific cans for specific traits, and in the process, you're also teaching people about those, the qualities of the beer.
Nice.
So that could be different ways. Like if you look at this example here, this could be like different ways that we could
I love that.
potentially
That's
like
cool.
qualify or categorize different styles of beers and information on there.
Part of our jobs as consultants is to not only listen to what the client says, but to watch what they do and listen to how they say things. Josh is a natural born teacher. And when we toured the brewery, we saw that first person. And so we wanted to make sure that we executed that in a Stylescape. The merit badge, that symbolized that education for us. And so we wanted to make that impact on at least one option.
I saw this one and I loved the colors of this one. It looked traditional. It looked different enough, adventurous enough. It had words on it that I loved.
I saw this and I knew right away she was gonna love it. It's kind of interesting because we still are a young company. It's not like our company has this heritage or this history that they can pull from and bring into this new thing. I do kind of like, I think they found like a universal almost way with this one that people could pass down traditions or teachings with like a badge type Boy Scout thing, or this stamp of almost like, yo, you accomplished this milestone. But this is also, it's done in a way that doesn't seem intimidating or seem like a milestone mark. It's friendly, it's inviting, it's a beer you want to open. So I think there's almost like an adventurous story behind this idea that is a softer approach on what my interpretation of tradition and heritage would be something older, dated, gold.
I love the word adventurous and how you brought that to tie all this in together.
Mm-hmm.
There's some kerning issues, right? I'm just kidding.
Get out! We said to play the tough client. I didn't know you were gonna go there.
This last one was a little bit of a wild card. So we were exploring a lot of things, and we were really thinking about the heritage. And one thing that came up was this old times, this like Americana vibe of hand-painted, handcrafted signs, right? So back in the day, nobody really had their signs printed, but they had them all hand-painted, as we can see here. And there's still a certain craft to that. Like whenever I see that personally, it's like, whoa, that was handmade. That's a little bit more special than the thing that was printed.
Yeah.
So there's that charm that we kind of just fell in love with when we came across some of these references. So we wanted to look at something that was a little bit more retro, a little bit more heritage-based, but is modernized. So if you look at the way that we're applying some of this information, where we have these like hand-painted signs that are very, geometric and kind of pop out, yet the way that we're applying them because of the bold colors and all the negative space, it feels a little bit more modern.
And the negative space is like the area around something that lets it breathe. So you can see this ampersand here. It's really bright, it's really fun, but around it, it's very, very clean. So it's this kind of mashup of being busy and clean all in one thing. Mm-hmm. And I think that the color palette and the way that we have these compositions, it's a different kind of sense of adventure. It's more like risky, right? It's more of a bold statement.
Yeah.
And then we have the actual typography, the typefaces that we're using kind of harken to times past, and a craft that honestly doesn't exist today. There are maybe a handful of sign painters that are still around. Mm-hmm. And that's it. So this is one of those dying art forms that we want to kind of embrace and bring back.
There's a certain charm to something that's handmade, something that I see prevalent across the Hamilton brand already, from the fixtures to the refrigerator to the design on their current cans. That was all made by Josh. And I wanted to figure out a way that how we might represent that in a brand identity moving forward. So when I saw these couple of examples of hand-painted signs and typography, I was like, wow, that could be a very interesting way to represent their brand and find that symmetry between something that is hand-painted versus something that is handcrafted, which Josh really loves that aspect of putting in the time and effort to make a quality beer. Yeah, and I think too, we were thinking about your personality, Josh. We're trying to capture that, right? Like, is it, you're kind of witty, you're kind of funny, but you're also warm and welcoming.
Kind of.
I mean, I'm saying it's a lot of those things combined together.
And that's how we got fired.
It's a lot of courtesy laughs.
No, I mean, all of that is, I think it's coming through with the mix of the typography. There's a certain language there that does feel very fun when you look at it. Yeah. So that's a little bit of that warmth that we were trying to come through on this one.
This one just reminded me of fun, the beach. I loved the colors of this one, but it was busy. And I knew Josh wasn't gonna like that one.
When they flipped this one over, I wanted to hit him in the face with, no, I'm just kidding. I could see why they would see this and think like, I bet Crysten will like this one. And maybe that was what their thought process is. One is like, Josh will like this, she'll like this.
And I do like that, but I also like him.
So he knew I would be like, that's just a little too much.
I knew that he wouldn't like that.
So right off the bat, did we miss the mark completely?
I don't think you missed the mark completely, no, not at all.
Yeah.
So what's your guys' gut reaction? We could start with Josh.
We said this in Discovery. Sometimes clients need to see something to react to it. And that's the whole purpose in presenting Stylescapes. They're all just conversation starters. We want to make sure that the client has something to respond to.
One mistake I used to make in the past as a young designer, creative professional, is that I thought I had to have all the answers. When I used to go into these presentations before, I would show the work and think that I have to sell them really hard to make them love my idea. That was the wrong way. I don't have to have all the best ideas. Our approach now, and I think why we've been so successful working with clients is because we involve them in every single step.
And if you can imagine Josh, who's used to making everything himself, if we went away, if we disappeared and then just came back with all the right answers, even if they were perfect, he wouldn't go for that.
Right.
He wants to be a part of the process.
Involve them in the process, get their input, and then kind of put that together, and then have a clear direction moving forward so that they feel like they are building this design, this brand identity with us.
This like seems a little too busy for me. Just looking at that real quick, like my instant is like, nope. Just like when the colors came out and hit me, I was like, I don't want to go there. But I do like seeing like the weight to the letters and the shadows. That's fun. What I like on this one, I do like all the line or the stamp looking things. This is cool. There's just something about this I feel like I see it all the time. Like this stuff, like the shield, and then we'll just change the color on the background and it's a new beer. But I do like the layout of that, because this also seems like it has a little bit of that hand painted, like hand lettered stuff, which is fun. I like how the color pops on this one. And I don't think I've seen like designs that you would think look busy, but they still look clean, you know? Like that. So I like, if I had to pick one, I like the top one the best, but there's other elements I would switch out with stuff down here that I think is cool too.
Yeah, I think I would same, like pick and choose different parts of different things, but just visually, I would go with these two. I like the colors of this, and I actually like the colors of this too, but like this is really fun. This is like the colors I wear. I like this.
Yeah, let's match you.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, told you. I love how you, like I said before, I love how you guys took the adventurous theme almost and using the little elements of like the little tree and the acorn, and I feel the exact same way, babe, about this one. This like I love this, you know, like I'm so basic, but not that it's basic, but I love the colors in this, and I love like I feel like I would pick this beer at Bevmo because I like the clean look. My thoughts on this is I don't know if it's too like high end for what we are. Like just honestly, like you know we're like handmade tables is what we started out with. I don't know, you know, it's just it seems fancy.
So I'm gonna ask some difficult questions.
Oh, go for it, yeah.
Consider the business, the brand, outside of you, this whole enterprise. Which one feels like Hamilton Family Brewery?
Probably this one. We have a huge demographic of people that come and drink here, so I think this would probably be the most inviting across the board.
Yet it's still clean enough where like I think Kurt would still grab that beer.
If you had to pick one to crumple up and throw away, don't do it, Josh, but which one would it be?
I think this
Probably
one.
this one, yeah. Like I feel like I really like this thing with the color, almost like a label on top of a labal.
Yeah, it's cool.
Like it really wants me to make me want to read what that yellow thing is, you know?
Yeah, like something special's on there.
Yeah, and I think there probably are ways to soften stuff like this, like the way that this is, you know, because we do a lot of fruit beers, so it's like it's fun if we have a beer where it's like that just is like that's the fruit we put in it.
Okay, so I'm gonna recap. It looks like we're gonna toss this one, keep the hand crafted feel.
Yeah.
We're gonna minimize this one, and we're gonna go for more of a combination of these two, where we're looping in some of the effects that we've done here and pulling that into this and looking for ways to do these kind of special things in the bin chalkboard.
Sounds great to me.
My biggest concern at this point is color, because Min has all these bright, fun colors in this Stylescape, and they were drawn towards the blue. And I'm a little bit worried that blue is just gonna make things more primary and not as fun. So I think that's a challenge that we'll have to navigate.
So now that we have a clear direction with the Stylescape chosen with minor refinements, we have a clear North Star. So now we can go back to the team, back at Blind, and present this to them and say, here's what the client likes. Let's start making elements based off of this. So now everybody's looking at the same exact reference, and this is a good way to keep everybody aligned, both on the client side and our internal team.
We're basically gonna take the Stylescape that they chose back to the designers, and now they have the sandbox to play in.
Doing the design now for our stuff, I always second guess, third guess, fourth guess myself. And I think it gets her to the point where she's like, gosh, just pick one, you know? And so to have someone else doing it and just get a look, I think and being able to talk with her about it, it's been more helpful to find a consensus, because I'm not set or anything. I didn't sweat over this. I didn't put all the thought process behind this top one. I just get to see, someone else took that idea that I've been going for, scratching at, not able to produce, and they said, here it is on a board. And I go, oh, I like that. And then they get to compare what she really likes on a board, and then compare them against each other with direct questions. Like, it's helpful. We've never done it that way. So this was extremely helpful for us to find what it is that I like about that and how that can be implemented in an area that she likes stuff too. So this is easier, I think, than any.
Yeah. And every single one of these had something that both of us liked, because it's from the conclusion that came from last time.
We're definitely picking a lane with one of these, and I'm going to be able to stay in that lane. And I like that.
I mean, everything that we talked about last meeting, they're really considering it, and it's really, I have tons of confidence.
Josh and Crysten have had an opportunity to talk about their feelings about the Stylescapes. Now it's time for Ben and Matthew to discuss how they feel the presentation went.
I think we got a couple of wows. I think that there was a reaction that I love to see, where it's like they were impressed with the scope. Where I was a little disappointed is they didn't zero in on a single version in its entirety. That's the ultimate win, when you can say, this is perfect. Every element on this page you guys nailed. But that's so hard to achieve, especially without any give and take. So I'm not really that disappointed.
I mean, I think they took it very well. I think they were able to latch on to a couple of ideas right away and then hone in on one that they really liked. So I thought they received it really well. And I know our wild card at the very end was going to be either I hate it or I love it. And clearly they hated it. It's definitely in the throwaway pile right away. So it's good. I mean, we just wanted to see where we should go and where we shouldn't go. So I think that was pretty clear.
They latched on to the third option, the merit badge, with elements from a couple of different pieces, which is pretty typical. Any feedback that we get in this phase is awesome. The only feedback that I hate to get is, you guys missed the mark completely. We don't see anything that's applicable. Let's start again. And we didn't get that, so I'm chalking this up to a win.
With the direction chosen, the designers will now move forward on one of the most challenging parts of the rebrand process, developing the logo. The team will have to combine their skills to create something that represents Hamilton and meets both Blind standards and the clients. Coming up on Building a Brand, Matthew and Ben will lead the designers through the ideation process for logo creation and face pushback from the Hamiltons.
I thought that we had a good understanding of what the brand is and what he wanted, and I find out that we don't.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have a question about what you saw today, leave us a question in the comments below. And if you want to learn more about the Stylescapes process, check out the links in the description. As always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that bell because it really helps us out. We'll see you on the next episode of Building a Brand.